Hey everyone, welcome to the main event with Joe Tillman. I am Joe Tillman, and you're watching the main event. See how that works? It's kind of circular. Yeah, so this is episode number 3 of the main event, and we are broadcasting as the main event today because, so this is episode number 3 of the main event, and we are broadcasting as the main event today because, so this is episode number 3 of the main event, and hearing myself way too much. There we go. Yeah, so the reason why we don't have the Bald Truth today is because Spencer Coburn had to leave town. He is en route back to LA right now as we speak, or at least he's about to be after spending some days out of town. So I do apologize for the delay in the broadcast. I had initially canceled several minutes after we were supposed to go live simply because I live in a mixed-use facility, and neighbors a few floors up decided to start their remodel of their particular unit today. So there's a lot of jackhammering going on, and being a concrete building, it's reverberating down into my studio. Good times. So it seems like it's died down a little bit, but boy, was it loud. It was very frustrating because I was trying to get the show ready for this broadcast. But here we are. So anyway, today's episode is talking about the cosmeceutical wave of hair loss products, and it all has to do with this product that was supposed to go live and become available in East or Western Europe this month. Based out of South Korea, and it's one of these androgen receptor, what do they call it? I'm kind of distracted right now. What are they calling it? The androgen receptor, I forgot what they call it. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It was the one that's coming out of South Korea, and they filed, instead of for the European equivalent of FDA approval, they filed for, I think it was in the UK actually, they filed for a nutraceutical, cosmeceutical type of, clearance. And the problem I see with this is if there are any side effects with these types of treatments, who's going to regulate it? Because at least in North America or in the United States, the FDA does not regulate cosmeceuticals, nutraceuticals, things like this. In other words, products that you can buy online or at department stores or grocery stores that are not considered to be medications, like vitamins and things like that. And I have a problem with this because I feel like these types of products, because they don't have the oversight of a government regulatory agency, you don't know what the hell you're putting in your body. You don't know what the side effects are really, even though the manufacturer is claiming that there's no side effects. I know that this particular company that's putting out this hair loss product, they're claiming in their studies there are no side effects. But the problem with that is that it's their studies. I'm not aware of any independent studies about this. You can learn more about this on Hair Loss Cure 2020. Thank you, Jay Jones, androgen receptor inhibitor. Yeah, that's what that is. I think that's the word I was looking for. I find it really interesting, and I got a problem with it. I hope that this product is going to be all that they say it is. And let me just see if I can pull it up because I forgot the name of it. I'm going to Hair Loss Cure 2020.com, and I highly recommend that everyone watching this check that out as well, because they are as far as I'm concerned, the authority on emerging science, emerging treatments and medications when it comes to hair loss and hair restoration. And I've been going to this website to get my information. So what's the product? There's so many of them that they're talking about now, actually. Was this? Yes, Samir RNA. Is that the one? Cosma RNA. That's it. Cosme RNA. That's the one I believe it's supposed to be going, becoming available spring 2023, but the latest information I saw was end of March. I did go to their website today, and it's still saying register to get notifications of for updates. There's no product information on the website as of today, March 10th. So we're a third of the way through March. Nothing to see. It does say here on Hair Loss Cure 2020, end of March. So we'll see. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments or in the chat, actually. And let's talk about it. Let's see. Protac androgen receptor degrader. Yeah. The 3 types. Yep. I understand that there are 3 different types. Excuse me. Wehrman's Hair Loss Project. Oh, the new studio. Look to the new studio. I like it. Thank you very much. I worked very hard on it. I've got all new sound dampening and a little bit new lighting or adjusted lighting. But you tell me, how's it sound? Does it sound better? Does it sound a little bit more of have more of a dampening effect? I'll close this door. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. I got the doors treated. I got not the ceilings, but I got the upper walls treated. And all this is not just for the show, but also for the recordings I'm making for the hair transplant education class and series I put out. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Women's Hair Loss Project. I'm pretty happy with this so far. I still have a little bit of an issue in one corner. When I do a sound test, I can hear almost like a metal reverberation, and I don't know where it's coming from. I think the sound is bouncing into the vent that's at the top of the wall near the ceiling and going down the ventilation shaft. I think that's what it is. It's tough to get perfect sound. But the good thing is I have no windows, so it's a great start for this studio. I decided to make an investment and upgrade my sound. So, all right, HLC 2020, we got androgen receptor degrader, inhibitor, reducer, and antagonist from various companies. Yeah, and is there a whole lot of difference just based on the name? I don't know. Harsh Rao, where's Drunken Spence? He's maybe in the air right now, traveling back to Los Angeles. He had to leave town. He had some stuff to deal with, some things that he had to take care of. Let's see here. Just want to refresh this. I'm feeling a bit discombobulated right now, and if it seems like I am, it's because I am, because I was really frustrated starting this show. For those of you that are just joining, I could barely hear myself because there's construction going on several floors up for me. I am on the bottom of my development, the bottom floor. And while it is residential, I do work here. I work from home. I built my studio here. And they decided to tear up their floor. And this is a new development. It's only 4 years old. But some people bought a place. They wanted to redo the floors. So they got jackhammers. And it's a concrete building. So it's vibrating all the way down here. And I could barely hear myself. It was really annoying. I'm still kind of flustered because of it. Trying to come down. But again, if you're new to the channel and you don't know who I am, I just want to explain a few things before I move into this. My name is Joe Tillman, and I've been in this industry of hair loss and surgical hair restoration for over 20 years now. And I've been a patient since the early 1990s when I had 2 bad hair transplants. And when I say bad hair transplants, they were poorly performed strip surgeries. And while medication was available, it was just coming out at the time when I had my surgery, my doctor never told me about it. And the problem with that, being 22 years old, and this is going to segue into a story I've got, is that I kept losing hair. And, this is something that's interesting still to me, how people can commit to surgery and not commit to maintaining the hair that they have today. They want to get a hair transplant so that when it grows in, they can look great a year from now, but they don't give a damn about taking medication to preserve their existing hair today. And so my problem was I lost all my hair. I was beyond a Norwood 6, going into a Norwood 7 by the time I was 31 years old. So that's young to have that much hair loss. There are guys that have much the same hair loss, much younger. But it was devastating to me because the result of those 2 hair transplants meant that I call them now ant legs on growth hormone sticking out of my forehead. That's the way my hairline looked. There were large gaps in between the grafts that were replaced. Each graft was really thick, multi-hairs, and they were vertical. The angle and direction were completely horrible. So that was my hair. You can check out my result. You go to hairtransplantmentor.com and look under hair transplants. You can follow my complete journey from early on to the end. And I thought it was, when I think about it now, especially compared to what young guys are going through today, it's really no different, because I had a bad hair or 2 bad hair transplants. I found redemption through a fantastic hair restoration specialist, Dr. Jerry Wong of Hassanawong. And he got me back onto the path of looking normal. Long story short, I started working for the clinic, gained 11 years of experience working under Dr. Wong and Dr. Hassan, 2 phenomenal surgeons, where I wasn't just a consultant. Like I was a consultant in educating patients, but I was involved with surgeries because I am a geek when it comes to surgery. I absorb this kind of information. And that's part of why I do what I do today, where I still try to educate patients, even though I'm not a consultant per se. I'm not trying to steer people towards any particular doctor. And I guess the point of this kind of backstory, for those of you that do know my backstory, and for those of you that don't, is sometimes I come across comments from people saying that I'm trying to get people to go to doctors I work with. And it's something I feel it needs to be broken down, because the way that I do things, it's different from what anyone else does. I don't sell surgery, and I don't have consultation forms on my website. There are other hair loss and hair restoration websites that also do not have consultation forms. But I think that that's really important for people to understand when you're dealing with an online entity, when you are looking for information from resources that are managed by individuals that are talking about, they're giving their information or they're giving you information, trying to educate you. You need to look at the motivation, the bigger motivation, the bigger picture. And in my case, and in the case of, say, Bald Truth Talk, the Hair Loss Forum, and Hair Loss Experiences, and Hair Loss Cure 2020, and several other websites out there, are there consultation forms that are being sent to doctors so that you can have an evaluation by that doctor to have surgery? I'm not a big fan of that. And the reason why is because it creates a direct link, a direct motive, a direct bias to sell surgery. Because when you look at doctors that are signing up to be members of these kinds of websites, that's their motivation. They are there because they want you to fill out consultation forms. And it's the way that these websites are selling themselves to these doctors, saying, look at the traffic that we generate for you, and we can facilitate consultations for you directly through our website. I'm not a fan of that, because I think that's too much of a incentive for steering the conversation, for steering the narrative of whatever discussions are going on. And I don't do any of that. And as far as what I do, on my website or through this channel is I simply educate. And I want you to understand that surgery is the last resort. Why is that? Because I wish someone had told me that 30 years ago. I wish someone had told me that I was going to lose more hair if I didn't get on medication. I wish someone had told me that I should try medication first for at least a year. If that were the case, if someone had actually stepped up and said, Joe, surgery can be great, but what can be greater is not needing surgery. So here's a pill, take it every day. Let's talk in a year. If I had been told that, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have made my profession, my life about hair loss. And when you think about it, it's kind of, it's definitely unique. It's definitely something that is a topic for discussion at dinner parties. When people don't know what you do and you bring it up, it's like you can hear a pin drop when you start talking about it. Everyone shuts up and everyone's like, what's he talking about? I've been there many times. Like people stop and they're like, what is he talking about? Hair loss? That's what he does. And then when I explain it, what I do and why, and it's really amazing to see people's reactions. But again, I think it's important that these things are spelled out, because you got to know motivations. You got to know why people do what they do in this space, because it's a very dangerous space. There's so many people trying to take your money. And I understand, like, I have no problem with people trying to make a living in this industry, of course. Like, I mean, you got to do that. And people need to make a living, and, more power to them. But I think there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. And throughout my career, I have tried to do things the right way. I have never taken a commission for anyone's surgery. Even when I worked directly for clinics as a consultant, from the very beginning, I was on salary, no commission. So getting people in the chair did not affect my monthly take home. That's not the case for a lot of other people that you are dealing with online, whether it's directly or indirectly. I simply make my living from doctors that want to be a part of what I do. They want to be a part of the message that I put out there. It's simply a monthly fee that they pay me to point out the truth about hair restoration. And of course, I talk about them in initial videos I put out and say, this is why I think that they're worth considering. But I never tell people to go to a specific clinic. In fact, lately I've been involved in some discussions on new platforms. Like I've gotten involved with a Facebook hair loss group called Hair Loss Conquerors. I've gotten involved with Reddit recently on the hair transplants subreddit, which was kind of daunting at first because it's kind of confusing the way things work. But then I've worked to figure things out, and I enjoy it. But I'm very careful with what I say about different doctors, and I'm very clear with disclosing relationships. If I have any sort of relationship, financially speaking, with a doctor that's being mentioned, and I address the subject, I spell it out. I have a financial affiliation. If I don't have a financial affiliation, I also spell that out, because I don't want there to be any sort of confusion. I want things to be above board. So anyway, that's a little bit of a rant that I've kind of had in the back of my mind for a while. I wanted to share because I don't talk about it very often. A lot of you know these things, and I really appreciate my subscribers and followers on, subscribers here and followers on Instagram. But I've not talked about it in a while, and I've been reminded through some interactions that I've had personally and some observations I've had online with other people having their interactions, that I should probably talk about this a bit more, because I think that is valuable for the overall message that I'm trying to put out about surgery being the last resort, about medical, non-surgical interventions being far more important than surgery. In some cases, they can be as dramatically beneficial as surgery. Most cases not, but the way I look at the non-surgical approach to hair loss or hair restoration is that at the very least, it sets up a baseline for your future. If you don't have anything that's at least slowing your hair loss, then everything else that you are trying to do is a waste of time. It's a waste of money, and it can potentially cause harm to your scalp. It can cause mental and emotional anguish if you don't do things the right way. And so forgive the rant. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. It has been on my mind, and I think it's important to understand these things about me moving forward for those of you that don't know me. And a lot of you don't, because I am spreading off into areas I'm not used to being in, like Reddit and some of these Facebook groups and stuff. But yeah, so let's look at the chat. And yes, I was trying to get some phones set up. I do have the option to call in, but I don't know if it works. I was testing it earlier with a buddy of mine. And I was live streaming on a backup channel I have just to see if it was working. He wasn't coming through, and I don't know why. We can try it again. I can try to take a phone call. No guarantee it'll work, because this is not simple. Doing all this by myself. I'm starting to think I should hire a studio to take care of it for me, because it might be worth the financial outlay, even after I've already got all this set up. So anyway, by the way, I got my secondary camera set up. What do you guys think of that? Does that work? Yeah, you can get an idea of what I've got going on here. You can see my monitor, you can see keyboard, you can see my switchboard here. Main camera, secondary camera, microphone. You can see more of my setup behind me. I might switch things around. No, that's good. Anyway, so let's go back to this camera here. Anyway, so Born to Lose. Spencer's not here. He's that's why it's the main event, not the Bald Truth. He's out of town. Walrus was Jason. It is a new show, but only because Spencer's out of town. We're not doing the Bald Truth. This is something that I'm going to start doing at some point. I've been saying this for a while on my own, because I got some things I want to say sometimes at different times of the week. Sometimes I don't like waiting till Fridays. And Spencer and I have talked about doing the show twice a week. We used to do it twice a week, but it's difficult because it's trying to coordinate two separate schedules, not just one, him and me. And thank you, Born to Lose, about the studio. Appreciate that. But I really want to do the main event. That's what I'm calling it, MANE. Get it? At least twice a week, aside from the Bald Truth. So 3 shows a week, where every Friday it'll still be the Bald Truth. And then maybe Mondays and Wednesdays, it'll be the main event with me, Joe Tillman. We'll see. I've been so busy lately. I got a lot of projects on my plate, but I need to get those phone calls worked up because it's tough. But let's try to take a phone call. If you want to call in, it is toll free in North America. It's 1-833-563-4247. Again, it's 1-833-563-4247. No guarantees it'll work, but if you want to give me a hand and call in and see if it works, like I know I'll be able to hear you, just don't know if everyone else can hear you. So you can give that a shot and we can have a discussion. In the meantime, here we go. All right, I think I know who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, it worked. Hey, Joe, it's Nico.
Hey, Nico. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Now, I don't know if it's going to come through on the live stream. Hold on.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hold on.
Oh, it worked. Hey, Joe, it's Nico.
Hey, Nico. How you doing, buddy? It sounds like it's working. Okay. Holy shit.
Hi.
Nice.
Thought I'd give it I give it a shot for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Let me see if I can crank up the volume a little bit, though, because it seems like we're a little bit low. Let's see.
You're as clear as day on my end.
Nice, nice. Yeah, okay, so people in the chat room can hear you. That's good. All right, let's try that. Nico, can you give me a test 1, 2, 3, please?
Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you're louder for me. People watching, let me know in the chat room. What do you think? Is he louder? All right, Walsh is Jason.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good. All right, Nico, how you doing, buddy?
All right, man, hanging in there.
Yeah. What's the latest with you?
Where do I start? Had my transplant about, 3-4 years ago already. Can't believe that. That's crazy.
Has it been? Wow.
Just getting over on my end, the wasn't the best of experiences, only because, I went through, I think the worst of it was all the inflammation that I've gotten since the procedure. And it was hard to figure out if it was, I'm heading towards 50. I'll be 49 and coming up in July.
That always kills me. Every time you tell me your age, it blows my mind because you sound like you're 23.
Yeah, I look young too, which is helpful. But the hair situation is always the buzzkill. Could be worse. I'm working towards just trying to be normal, but getting my inflammation down has just been key. And I have noticed that, it sucks because it gets worse with weather and stuff like that.
Okay, so let me stop you.
Go for it. Yeah.
How does that work? Okay, so the inflammation, like I'm really interested in this. What was the latest in your efforts for this? Did you ever find out, or did you ever come up with an idea of what was the issue, or at least what was causing it?
It's still an enigma in the sense that I made a mistake of, and it goes back to what your intro was, where I had the procedure, and I went to a great reputable doc. Yeah. There was no conversation about try meds for a year first and then come back. Yeah. Which was a bummer. So I had my procedure, and there was somewhat of a tight closure, I guess. Mm-hmm. A definite. It was in the notes. I was going under stress at that point. I had the procedure, and then I started Propecia about 6 months after. So that's a starting point. It was hard for me to know between stress, and I know for most, it seems, Propecia people do really well. I feel like I wasn't doing well. Yeah. It was hard to know between, was it my anxiety, or that whole conversation about, because I have read other people who've had experiences with anxiety and inflammation from Propecia, and I don't want to be a downer on that end or provide misinformation. That was just, or maybe it was my scalp readjusting and I started at the wrong time. It's hard to know about what was the source of the inflammation. Okay. That being said, my dad, who passed away a few years ago, 96, he had some issues later in life with seborrheic dermatitis as he aged. Mm-hmm. So I have this really thick seb derm. What can I say more about that? I don't want to go off on digress or anything. No, it's okay. I mean, I think this is important because everyone has their journey, and one of the reasons why I'm always pushing caution and not rushing into these types of procedures where it's surgical is because you don't know what the hell's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to react to medication. You don't know how you're going to react to the surgery. That's the main reason why I want people to put it off. But your case is a fantastic representation of why this is so important, because it wasn't so much the surgery that was an issue. You have that's a separate issue on its own, but you were a late
adopter of finasteride, and potentially that was the catalyst for these issues as everything else developed, as your surgical result was unfolding, and of course as you were reacting to the medication itself. I feel like cases like yours, like had you been told that you should try finasteride first, and if that is the source of this inflammation problem,
I would have known. Yeah,
you would have known. You would have probably gotten off of the medication, where you'd say, hey, okay, this isn't for me, it's not working. And had you gone, I don't like to speculate, but had you gone on with surgery for whatever reason, maybe you could be in a different position, albeit still with continuing hair loss, because you're not, because you don't have the have finasteride to deal with. But who knows, man? I mean, it is what it is. We don't. I know you're the same way. You don't like to kind of. You don't like to dwell on the past. We are where we are. It is what it is. Today is today, and you sound a lot better. I got to tell you that much. You sound like you're in a better place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very level-headed. It's just back to what you said in your opener, also about the psychological anguish. It has continued because I'm still trying to figure things out with the source of inflammation, and I have improved my diet, and things have improved a little bit. Plus, certain topicals and stuff that help with the inflammation. One other piece I forgot to mention with the surgery was when I went in the day of surgery, the doctor did feel my scalp, and he said, "Oh, it felt funny," and so I didn't know what that meant.
He said what?
That meant that my scalp itself felt funny.
Felt funny.
Yeah, right. A little ambiguous. I didn't know. In hindsight, it might have meant maybe oily or just I don't know. So, but we proceeded anyway.
Okay.
I did get good growth. The grafts, not everything took, but most of it did. It seemed.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all just part of what you've been talking about, as far as gotta get your shit lined up properly for you got to get the right wave of positives before even pursuing surgery and the surgery itself. So I don't know, just sharing.
Okay. Well, no, I'm glad you did. And, I've always been interested in your case. I felt like it's a great tale for other people to be aware of when they're doing their research. I mean, no one wants to be that guy that's the example of what not to do.
Oh yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I always give Spencer credit. When he was first concerned about hair loss, he went to see Dr. Norman Orenreich, one of the quote unquote godfathers of hair restoration surgery, for better or for worse. And he talks about how they were trying to push him into having surgery, even though it wasn't really hair loss. It was just a wee bit of thinning in the temples, and had he gone through with that, he would have wound up with, demon horns sticking out of his forehead, out of his temples, in the form of plugs. And I give him credit for not being suckered into that position, whereas I, on the other hand, was suckered into it not once but twice.
Crazy.
And I'll never forget the moment that I realized I might have made a mistake. And I was in the chair for the second time, and I asked my first intelligent question. I haven't talked about this in a long time, but I asked the doc in the middle of the surgery, I was like, "What happens when I lose more hair?"
Mm-hmm.
And his response was,
"Come back.
You won't lose more hair.
Ugh.
At least not until you're like 50. And when that happens, you just come back and see me for another one." Ha, 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 ha.
Sure.
I was 22 years old. And I was like, nice. Something about that just doesn't sound right. And this is before the internet. I hate saying that because it really ages me.
It was.
We have the Yellow Pages. And the only reason why I was there is because my best friend from high school originally needed me to go with him wanted me to go with him for the consultation, just for support, right? Just to be there with him, because we used to do all kinds of stuff together. So yeah, I am in the same boat. I made, I didn't know what I thought I needed to know, or what I know now I should have known, and it is what it is. I'm that guy. I'm the guy, people point to. Don't do what he did. I point to myself. Don't do what I did. And
I did 2 years of research too, man, and I thought like I was good to go, and I said I'm not going to be that guy. And then this unique situation, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
it happens.
Well, again, and that's just another reason why, I refer to this sometimes when I'm talking about this subject. My very first hair transplant class video, do not get a hair transplant, which I got so much shit for. I got so much grief over that one from people commenting in the comment section, calling me a hater when they didn't understand the point. A lot of you did. I think you did. Don't get a hair transplant unless you are prepared for the possibility of it not turning out, because that is the truth. Doesn't matter where you go. I know
100%.
To steal the phrase from Spencer, I know where all the bodies are buried from all these top docs that are supposed to be A+, untouchable as far as their ethics and their abilities and their skill set. Nope. They've all got unhappy patients. Sometimes it's warranted. Sometimes it's not warranted. But they've all got unhappy patients.
There's so much of a fantasy element that even when I saw that video, it's kind of like, it's not going to happen to me. I'm good. You want the dream. You get sold the dream.
Yeah.
Not by you. The doctor, whomever.
Yeah.
Socially. It's wild. And I'm just trying to get back to, it could be a lot worse. I just can't apply, spray or topic or any of that shit because of the inflammation. Sorry, Keith. Hope I'm not demonetizing with language.
Sorry.
So it's hard. I've been in a hat ever since the surgery, so that's part of the bummer.
I'm sorry. That's tough.
Yeah, and I just got to wait it out, I guess, and see if my body can get back. And I did have one question, surgical question, so that other people can call.
Yep.
If you have time.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it, man. I think I've brought it up in the past, is being that when I had my strip, the first suture, or at the, above the ear, or past the ear, it was pushed in, and so caused a nice bunch of shock loss. Let me see if I'm on the right track here. So there's, that's something that could be repaired, probably. I was wondering if some people do the FUE route to fill that in. Some people just go for a second strip, or, and find sections that need to be repaired. And like you do another strip of just that section. Is it harder to do a strip on just a very, very small area? I know you have done some repairs where some strips were cut out in different areas. Is that tricky business?
Well, no. Well, it depends. But let me ask you. So you said the very first suture, or was it staples?
Suture.
Suture. Okay. So the very first suture at the beginning of the incision line on the side of your scalp. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And you're saying that it was buried, or there's kind of a pit, like an indentation or something where the suture was?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was told that the suture I must have slept on it, which wasn't the case. But that being said, I'll get past that, is that it caused that shock loss in that little pit area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and I did notice inflammation starting at that point, interestingly, but that's more speculation. Sorry, go ahead.
I love the surgical questions. I'm just going to tell everyone right now, I love the surgical question. That's my wheelhouse. The treatments, like I talk about on hairlosscare2020.com, That's not my wheelhouse. I'm getting more interested in those, but I'm saying these things because when Nico's asking me this question, I knew what the issue was before he was even talking about it. So what you got going on, it's not because you slept on a suture. Who says that? Jesus Christ, who says that? It's not because you slept on the suture.
No.
When you take out a strip, there's an approach that has to be taken where you read about how wide a donor strip was when it was removed, and the clinic will say, oh, it was 1.2 centimeters wide, or it was 2 centimeters wide, or insert number here. They're talking about at the widest point, which is usually in the dead center of the occipital region of the donor site.
Yep. As
the strip excision migrates towards the sides to the end, they should be getting the width should be becoming more and more narrow, so that when you close it, you don't have the skin tissue bunching up because of angles that are not parallel, trying to meet each other. When that's not the case, when the strip wound edges are not parallel and they're closed up at the end, what happens is you get the formation of what's commonly referred to as a dog ear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what you've got going on, because the tissue it's almost like it's tied into place. But when it's tied up, the tissue bunches up, because you're causing unparalleled edges to suddenly become parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, there's a lot of pressure. Blood is pushed away, thereby causing a potential spot of permanent shock loss, because the hair in that area is now deprived of blood and oxygen, and it rarely comes back. In those, it can come back a little bit. So the spot that's at that end of the scar line, once the scar line forms, it can vary in size, in severity. I'll say. So the question, or the answer to your question, is it can be addressed with another strip. If you're going to have another strip, they'd have to extend it anyway. They have to extend the length of the strip to encompass all the scar tissue to begin with. They do another strip on you in this area, it would take out that dog ear, and hopefully, if it's tapered properly at the end, you would have a parallel wound closure where they meet up, and you wouldn't have this issue again. I might have had that issue early in my first repair with Dr. Wong from the two strips. I don't recall, and I wasn't that aware of the nuances of surgery at the time. But it very well could have been, simply because they were wide and they were short, and that's typical. Right. That's more typical with wide, short strips. So, but you could also FUE into it for sure. If you don't wind up doing another strip, you could do a partial scar revision where just that area is cut out, so that you can improve that specific area. And you wouldn't have to worry about hair growing back, because the area that is missing the hair is removed. They close the wound. Hopefully, if everything's done the right way, then you're good.
Yeah, that spot interestingly has the most inflammation, which is interesting. And there was speculation about it maybe being what's called Koebner's phenomenon. If you're familiar with that or not.
No.
Sometimes people who get something like a suture, or some people get it with tattoos, they get like a psoriatic response from poking and prodding kind of thing. So, I mean, again, this is all, I could drive myself crazy for another 4 years thinking about what is the source, which feels important. But again, I've been working on the diet and all that stuff. I just trying to figure it out. And I think it's important just for people to hear. And
it is. I love it when you call, and I'm glad that you called to help me test my audio, but also to get your message out, to get your story out, because I think it's more important than ever. I didn't realize that you had researched for 2 years. Yeah. I knew you'd research. I just it's nice to be reminded of the lead up to your surgery. Yeah, I mean, look, shit happens, man. I mean, it's that's why I keep pushing this. Surgery's last resort.
Yep.
You know, you, my friend, you sound like you are in a lot better place, and I'm really pleased to hear that you've kind of, you know, worked your way through this a little bit. You're still working on solutions for the inflammation, but you've kind of dealt with it to the point where it's better. I'm encouraged by that, and I think that you keep on this same path, things will just get better for you. So,
cool.
Well done, congratulations, and I'm really glad you called in to share this. Thank you so much.
You bet, man.
Call back anytime, okay?
Let's get somebody else, and I'll talk to you soon. I had another question, but I'll come back to you and get somebody else a shot.
No, ask me the question. It's fine.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it. The other question I had was, I think Spencer mentioned maybe 2-3 years ago on stream something about, I do have a double in the hairline.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much front and center. You said something about you can pluck one of them out. It might hurt a bit, and you'd have to keep doing it a bunch. Instead of going and seeing someone, a doctor who does, you know, I can't believe I used to know everything. Now I can't remember shit.
Welcome to 50.
Exactly.
That's the way I feel about it.
Dr. Cooley does it. Well, he'll pull something out. What do you call it? Not where he removes the graft.
It just excises it. Yeah.
There's not I forgot, but anyway.
Electrolysis.
Electrolysis. Yeah.
Oh right. Yeah.
He does that.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that with just this one guy that's in the front, that's a double instead of a single. Is what Spencer said have merit about pulling one out repetitively? Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Get some good tweezers. Isolate one hair out of the two. If it's a double, is it a double or a triple?
It is a double.
It's easy. Yeah. You just take some tweezers, some good quality tweezers. You got a good grip, and you don't want to be in a situation. This is just me. This is one of my hangups. I don't want to have to. I've actually tried this before, and I have this issue. There are some very specific things. It's very difficult to describe, but some very specific things that seem simple to do, but I can't do them because they trigger something. It's hard to describe. Like I can't go to a grocery store, like a department store. You know those hangers that are sticking out of the wall to hold the product. You know, If there's a wall of those that's empty, and it's just the thing sticking out, I can't look directly at it. It's really bizarre. Like it's almost painful visually for me to look at a wall with those support, the bag support sticking out, like say 20 of them. It's really weird. I can't explain it.
Trauma based on your original work done, do you mean, or just a phobia?
No, I think it actually comes from when I was a kid. I was pushed into a giant, almost looks like an aloe plant. I forgot what they're called, but they grow in Florida. They can grow to be like 6-7 feet tall, and like 20 arms sticking out, and they got thorns on the side. I think it comes from that, because I was pushed into one of those as a kid, and it cut me up really bad. So when I look at those, it triggers something. But the point is, it's also, I get the same feeling when I try to pluck a hair out of my hairline, because I tried it. It's just my own hang up. So I couldn't do it. But of course, I also had like so many of them at one point. But you can't, normal people that don't have this hang up, they can do that. Right. You can pluck it out. It will grow back. It might even grow back looking thicker, but you keep plucking it. And eventually, you will cause enough damage to that follicle to where the hair won't grow as long, it won't grow as thick, so it'll start looking better. And eventually, you pluck it enough, it just won't come back.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. To just cross check that.
I had a double in my hairline left over from a couple of my repairs from before a couple of my repairs, and I forgot which surgery. I think it was my third one. No, I think it was during my scar revision. I can't remember. I've had so many. Where I asked Dr. Wong to specifically go in and get this double out of my hairline, and he did, and it worked fine. But I tried plucking it before, and it's just like, ugh! It made me sick. I couldn't do it.
Bid where you went in and you talked about and you put that out there. I remember that old bid that you did when you went for your one of the last FUEs or something. He just did that on the side. Nice.
Yeah. It wasn't in 2019. That was my last surgery. I think it was actually when I still worked at the clinic. It was 2010, I think, when which is when I had my previous surgery. So it'd been 9 years till my next one. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, you can do that. Eventually, it will work out, most likely, to where it'll eventually improve the appearance of that particular graft.
Awesome.
All right.
Give it a shot. Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling.
You bet. I'll give a shout out another time. And thanks so much, Joe. You're the best.
All right. Thanks, Nico. Take care, buddy.
Be well.
Bye-bye. Number is 1-833-563-4247. Again, it's 833-563-4247. If you haven't figured it out, those last 4 digits spells hair on a typical dial pad. I know that because a lot of hair transplant clinics will have that number for that exact reason. 1-800-something-hair. It's stupid. I know. Are you watching the show right now? Can you see the show?
I actually moved off of it to call you. Like I was watching YouTube on my phone.
Appreciate that. That's actually good thinking. Let me see speedtest.net. I see what's going on with my connection. Is it me or is it YouTube? And it's definitely YouTube because I'm uploading at almost 700. I'm a little bit slow, but it's still almost 700 megabits per second. So
can they all hear us, do you think?
Oh, I'm sure they can. Well, once once it stops freezing, yeah, my speed's fine. So it's definitely YouTube. Yeah, it's looks like it's pixelated there. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's better. Okay. Yeah, so you're taking generic finasteride now. Are you okay?
Yeah, and I'm happy to give you more context if it's helpful.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want me to give you the quick?
Yeah. Give me the skinny.
Yeah. So I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 very soon.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had 2 hair transplants so far in my life. I started balding at a very young age. Was very aware of it because of my dad's pattern. He does have very strong donor hair, but completely bald on top. I guess is that a Norwood 7?
Mm-hmm.
I did have a hair transplant at a very young age. I did at 24. However, leading up to that, I took finasteride for about a year. I responded extremely well to it. It mostly stopped my recession entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a very small FUT procedure in Fairfield, Connecticut. I wonder if that doctor maybe rings a bell. Does that ring a bell for you? I was actually curious if that's someone that you recommend.
Dr. Cohen?
If that rings enough of a bell. Yeah.
Okay. I don't recommend or not recommend him. He's got a lot of happy patients, and I mean, you tell me, was it a good experience for you?
So what went well for me is that I feel like I was one of those young guys who was like freaking out, right? I wanted to throw the kitchen sink at it.
Of course.
I was willing to do whatever. I had some funds. I was, probably one who would err on the side of a larger procedure, probably was one who was falling for the marketing around FUE at the time, which I think was starting to get really big around then, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I've appreciated that he's taken a very conservative approach. When I've tried to lower my hairline, he's reasoned with me. When I've asked for a big procedure, he's gone with a smaller one and asked to kind of see how things go.
Okay.
So I've found things to go well. Honestly, if you saw me, I think you would think I had a good head of hair. So I've been, working hard to maintain this, but I've had great results in that capacity.
Well,
good. But I'd love to hear kind of
okay. Well, with regards to Dr. Cohen, then he obviously did a fine job for you, and I like the fact that he was urging caution, he was urging conservatism, he was urging you to have an eye on the future. I don't care who it is. That's always a good thing to tell a patient, no matter who the patient is. Assuming that they're a candidate for surgery to begin with. So it sounds like you're almost 31, so you've been living with this. You had the surgery, what, six and a half years ago. Final result, 5.5 years ago. And you've been maintaining, it sounds like, on finasteride, assuming generic from the beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah, always generic, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you answered your own question. You're fine.
Okay, well, I do anticipate that it's something that, as it progresses, I may continue to, I wouldn't rule out having another procedure in my life by any means.
Well, did you say you had 2 already?
Yeah. So I'm actually, one is still actually growing in. And I know I've told you that I'm in good shape, but, essentially I'd had one transplant and I felt like I wanted some additional density in that area. So we went back in.
Okay, fair enough.
Did another small FUT.
Yeah, okay.
It seems to be growing in well, but it's only about 6.5 months out.
Right. Okay, well, that's I mean, you still got some more improvements to go, but it sounds like you've had a good experience. I'm encouraged. I like hearing this, where you're taking it sensibly. Medication's working for you. That's good. That's good. You sound like my preferred type of case as far as how things unfold and manifest for patients. But look, I'm a big brand whore when it comes to Propecia, Proscar. Those are the brand names of finasteride as determined by the original manufacturer, Merck Pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Now, I forgot, they spun off their finasteride business. I forgot the name of the company, but I prefer the originals. And the reason why is because all generics, like everything else, is trying to be a copycat of the original. So why not just use the original? The argument is, well, it's so much more expensive, and I get that. I totally get that. But what is your hair loss, or what is your hair maintenance worth? And not to mention, like, I've always taken Proscar, the 5 milligram tablet, cut into quarters, where I don't know about other areas of the country or the planet, but where I live, Propecia and Proscar are roughly the same cost, where one's 5 milligrams, one's 1 milligram, obviously. So you're essentially reducing the cost by a factor of 4 just by getting Proscar and cutting it. And that winds up being like $20 a month if you're taking it daily. If you take it every other day, it lasts you for 8 months instead of 4. So, that's the way I looked at it. But if you are on generic and it's working for you, then more power to you. I have no problem with that. The only thing I would caution you against is allowing your pharmacy to change the supplier of your generic, or to change the source of your generic, because this is what happens when you're dealing with generics. Pharmacies love getting a hold of generics because they can maintain the same price while getting it cheaper, because they go through another bid process for suppliers to provide a product, a medication, and they'll switch to a different supplier if they can save a few bucks and still sell it to you for the same price. And you are unaware that the source of your generic has changed. Mm-hmm. So it may be some generic from, and I'm just being random here, from India, and it's working fine for you, like Finpecia. I don't know if you can get Finpecia in the States anymore. Or
like Aurobindo?
Yeah, fine. And then you're...
I noticed CVS seems to have Aurobindo.
Okay. So, and then
part of the reason
it works for you, but then they started getting it from someplace in China.
Yeah.
Is it the same? No, it's not the same. I don't think any two generics are the same. because they have their own manufacturing protocols. And it's interesting. A lot of people don't know this. Like any medication that is sold in the States, it is regulated by the FDA, even if it's made in a different country.
Yeah.
But regulation, quote unquote, means that the FDA will do inspections of these facilities. But the problem with that is they announce ahead of time to the manufacturer, hey, we're coming to your plant in Bora Bora, wherever it is, to do an inspection, and they give them a lot of notice. So if they're cutting corners by using cheaper materials or processes or whatever, they can rectify that for a temporary amount of time while they know that they're being inspected and there are eyeballs on them, and then they can go right back to the way they do things to save money once the guy with the clipboard and the tie hops on a plane to go back to the States. I don't know if that actually happens. I'm just saying, I know how people think, and there's a lot of money involved in this stuff. So you never know. I do know that there are facilities that FDA has gone in to inspect or have regulated, and they've wound up being busted using false products or false ingredients in their final product. No, I'm not talking about finasteride. I'm talking about other medications. It's something that does happen. So this is something that's always worried me. But if the generic that you're using is consistent and you're fine with it, and you're getting the same brand, it'll tell you the brand on the box, and it'll say finasteride and the actual manufacturer.
Yeah, that's what it's been. Yeah.
Then just make sure that every box you get from your pharmacy is from that same manufacturer. It's pretty simple.
Really helpful. I appreciate the ProStar suggestion. I think, and apologies, I don't know if you're hearing an echo. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. I think it may have gone away.
I'm not.
I think just the question I've been asking myself, right, is if I'm getting a decent result, is it worth it to spend an extra $1,000 a year for the brand name? When it's a little bit of an unknown whether I'd get an enhanced result from it or not, at least for me, based on trial and erroring it.
Well, how much? Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the different costs are, and I don't know what you would consider to be worth it. If you're happy with it, then maybe it's not worth it. I mean, I never encourage anyone to change if they're getting good results, if they're happy with it. And, you're in a position where if you're not taking something that works, you'll most likely know because of your family history. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be in a position where something, where you do start taking something that isn't working and you wind up seeing real fast. You don't want to be in that position. So, just stick with what you're doing. That's fine. There's no reason to change. In fact, anytime you change, you always run the risk of maybe kicking in some sort of, a varying degree of telogen effluvium, because if something doesn't work as well that you're taking, or maybe it works a little bit better than what you're taking, it can still potentially cause a bit of an effluvium that might cause you to freak out a little bit. That's never good. That's never good.
I realize I've taken a lot of time, so I want to leave room for other callers. I am also taking generic oral minoxidil. I got a crazy shed when I first started taking it. About 9 months into taking it, and I think I'm getting an amazing result. I know I'm still trying to just be patient a little bit longer.
You're getting an amazing result, and you're waiting for your hair transplant to mature. Boy, you just asked for trouble there.
What? Oh, sorry. Why is that? Why is that trouble?
Well, it's potentially trouble. I tell people to not double up on treatments. Don't start a treatment while you're recovering from surgery, because you don't know what's actually kicking in. Is it the surgery alone? Is it the surgery and the medication? Is it just the medication? Because if you're taking more than one approach to hair loss at roughly the same time, because hair takes a while to grow from anything, right? If you're taking more than one treatment at the same time, or you start more than one treatment at the same time, or roughly the same time, or in the middle of you started one and then a few months later you started another, you don't know exactly what is doing what. You don't know what's having the effect it's having, whether it be good or bad. So, for instance, if you're not doing anything, and you're one of these guys like Nico, the previous caller, was saying that when he was younger, or maybe it was you, sorry, saying you throw everything but the kitchen sink at it, or including the kitchen sink at it, you don't know what's working and what's not working. So 5 years down the road, if you decide you want to stop taking something, you don't know what you can stop taking.
Yeah.
And if you stop taking the wrong thing, you just screwed yourself. I'm a big believer in stacking things up. So, in other words, in your case, you had surgery, 6.5 months ago?
Yeah, I took oral minoxidil for about 3 months before surgery.
Exactly. Exactly. So
exactly. Yeah, I totally understand the point you're making.
Yeah. So if you had asked me, if you called up and said, what would you recommend I do? I would have said, take the oral minoxidil for a solid year before you're considering having your second surgery, because then you'll know if it's working for you, and it might even change your mind about a second surgery, because if you have a good enough result, surgery might not be necessary. That's the second reason why I recommend staying on meds for at least a solid year before pulling the trigger on surgery, whether it be first, second, third, doesn't matter. But you've done what you've done. You're in a better position now. You said you had your shed, which is normal. Like it's not common across the board, but when it does happen, it's not a reason to be shocked. It's coming back. Your surgery is maturing. You're happy with that. It sounds like you are on the right track. And because of your family history of hair loss, because of the conservative nature of the surgical approach, and you're having the success you've already been having with finasteride, I'm very happy for you. I would caution you to not stop either of the medications that you're taking now, because the problem with taking medications or with hair loss treatments, ongoing treatments, is once you add something to your regimen, you can almost never stop it without it having some sort of negative effect. You can always go forward. You rarely can go backward when it comes to treatments.
I've been consistent for about 7 years with finasteride. Don't plan to change it. And
good.
I feel great. My libido is great and all that good stuff.
Good.
I know you got to take other callers, and I do want to call in again some other time. The last really quick question I just wanted to ask you, both FUT procedures I had were kind of small when I listened to other people's surgeries. I think it was 1,100 the first time and not even 1,000 the second time, I think it was 950. Just curious, does that seem like a really small FUT procedure to you, or?
Depends on the size of the area being worked on. In general, they are considered to be small, but if it's a small area of need, then they're fine. I mean, it could be, it could be where 950 was your second surgery, but
exactly.
But if it was, 2,000 was taken, that could have been too much. So I'm not someone that criticizes small surgeries. I think that if they're enough to get the job done, then the size doesn't matter. I actually prefer smaller surgeries to bigger surgeries anyway. I have no problem with someone telling me that they are fine, or they think that their long-term plan would involve 3, 4, 5 smaller FUT surgeries or FUE surgeries. I have no problem with that. I like that approach for some patients because it does give you a chance to stop without risking a lot. Like if you have a 1,000 graft procedure and it's not quite working out, then you didn't blow your load. You didn't deplete your donor zone in order to come to that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does. Extremely, extremely helpful, Joe. I really appreciate the advice and kind of maybe the ProScar suggestion, which I think was one that I wasn't thinking about in the brand name, kind of just thinking about the cost and what makes sense in terms of next steps.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the advice. I'll call in again. I'm glad I found you guys. It was hard for me to find the channel, to be honest. I learned of it on Rolanda's channel.
Oh.
YouTube never kind of peddled your content to me, despite the fact that everyone else, like all of the other hair loss content across YouTube, is like constantly showing up on my feed. So that was just something that I thought was weird, that it took me so long to find you and Spencer, just based on the type of content that I'm consuming. That was just one thing that I found peculiar that I wanted to mention.
Well, that's because the show is penalized because Spencer's a potty mouth. Keeps throwing F-bombs out.
I was going to ask if it was the something like that.
He starts the show saying, hey, you effers, thanks for joining us on the show. Glad you could join us. You're all a bunch of effers. No, just kidding. Well, are you subscribed to the channel?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Did you ring the bell for all notifications or just
I
general?
did, and I liked the video.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And speaking of which, everyone watching this, take his lead and like this video. I am live streaming alone. I can't believe I finally got the phone set up. I got to throw a big quick shout out to Blake Blevins, my buddy down in Texas. He helped me get the phone systems worked out. He was calling in a few times earlier today. So thank you, Blake. Look, buddy, thanks for calling in. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the questions.
Yeah.
Call back anytime, okay?
Will do. Thanks so much, Joe. Have a good weekend.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. Phone number is 833-563-4247. Again, 1-833-563-4247. It is a toll-free call. I am here to take your questions. And I appreciate everyone that's calling in so far. I'm pretty happy with the show, the way it's turned out, considering I can hear things. If you're just joining us, I had actually canceled the show because there was some construction going on several levels up above my studio where they're using jackhammers, and it was vibrating through the concrete to where this capsule I've built, this studio that holds in the sound so well, was holding it in too well. I couldn't hear myself. It was extremely frustrating. But my wife actually encouraged me to go on. So that was nice because it's turned out to be pretty good. I was glad I got the phones working finally. Like, you guys have no idea the frustration behind that. It wasn't working the way I originally wanted it to using this, but I got it worked out. So again, phone numbers, toll free, 1-833-563-4247. It's actually down in the description if you want to check that out. Appreciate the caller so far. Let's go to the chat room until we get a call. Let's see. Yes, Rob, I did say that. Let's see. Any questions? You guys are talking about some things amongst yourselves. That's nice. Oh, you know what? It's actually, I got a good story. I don't know if it's a good story, but it's a story, or it's a situation that made me think, because I was on one of the subreddits I've been frequenting lately, hair transplants, I think, and there was some sort of celebrity. I think he's a sporting celebrity in Europe, maybe in the UK actually, a footballer. And there was a before, there was an after, and people were talking, do you think it's a hair transplant? And I said, yeah, it is a hair transplant, and it's not a very good one because it's pluggy. And it was pluggy. And I got the response. The guy responded, are you crazy? I would kill to have hair like that. And it made me think, am I crazy? Or do I just have standards? Now, whether I'm crazy or not, that remains to be seen. I don't think it's really relevant to the discussion. I might be crazy. But it made me think about the larger picture when it comes to the standards that people are looking at or looking for or expecting. And I mentioned this on the Bald Truth before, where the standards for what people expect for a hair transplant result, in my view, has gone down. And the reason why it's gone down is because more people are learning about hair transplantation. More people are wanting to do something about their hair loss through hair transplant surgery. because more people are seeing the option as being something they can do. That a lot of people didn't know you could get a hair transplant. I still hear that. But the reason why I think that standards have gone down is because the quality of the work has gone down, and what's replaced quality and naturalness has been Instagram and marketing and technicians dancing in the lobby or in the surgical suite, and doctors dancing around their patients, and all this all these I don't want to call them stunts, but all of these activities that are designed to get them attention, to draw your eyeballs to them. They're more focused on getting your attention than they are improving their craft. And I say craft because I do look at this as an art. It is medicine, obviously. But it is an art to be able to create a proper hairline, singles, angle, direction, things like that. Got a call coming in. I will grab this now. Here we go. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Thanks for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Neil from Boston.
Hey, Neil from Boston. How are you doing today?
Hi, I just wanted to kind of talk about that subreddit that you were kind of talking about.
Yeah.
I actually go on there all the time to try to help people make the right decision.
Good.
And it kind of baffles me how many people make the simplest mistakes and I feel like when I tell these people like what to do, I'm saving them almost.
Yeah.
Because every time I go on there, there's either a guy who is thinking about getting a hair transplant and is not considering medication, or they've already had a hair transplant and they're not on medication. And I warn all of these people, you got to get on the meds or you're going to be sorry. And there are some people who get very defensive and they start arguing with you on that subreddit. And I kind of follow you too as well, just to see, you know, it's
Thank
like
you.
free advice basically. And I see you get into arguments with these guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they don't want to be helped.
Well, I look at what I do as not arguing. I'm laying down some truth, and if they don't want to take my advice or heed my warnings, I can sleep at night knowing that at least I tried. And I think that what you're going through, I can appreciate what you're going through. I understand it. It's frustrating, but you have to put yourself in a position of acceptance that you can't save everyone. It's interesting you brought that up, or that you're in that same space, because I've kind of taken a different stance on dealing with I'll call them Redditors, than I have with people online in the past. I used to be very careful with how I talk to people, because I didn't want to be the asshole. I don't want to hurt their feelings when it comes to decisions they've made. But I've gotten to the point now where I think that kind of attitude, and I mean, obviously it's not just me, a lot of people that are in the public space, where they're known, they share their name, share their face. A lot of them are the same way. All of them are the same way, where they want to be encouraging to people after they've had a surgery or when they've made certain decisions about how they're going about things. I'm pulling back from that. I'm not of the opinion that that's helpful. And the reason being is because you got to realize that you're not just talking to that person. You're talking to everyone that's reading the discussion, which, depending on the format, depending on where it's located, it can be thousands of people. It can be a few dozen on some of these subreddits. It can be a few thousand on like on the show or like on YouTube or whatever, on Instagram, whatever. And I think that kind of approach has helped to create the environment for things to get worse, for people to not share their observations honestly, like you are, where you're trying to help people understand. I think that by holding back, and I'm talking about everyone else, I think it's almost encouraging people to make the wrong decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like a lot of these people, they're kind of the same demographic. They're really young and they don't have the kind of money to afford the surgery. And they just say, oh, just go to Turkey. You'll pay $2,000.
Yeah.
And they're only focused on the cost. And they're kind of, I think younger people are going to be a lot more desperate to get a very quick fix.
Yeah.
And I think when you're desperate, you get very vulnerable to like these scammers and hair mills. And
you do. Yeah. And sorry to cut you off, but I was just reminded of something that was told to me many years ago by a patient that I was having a discussion with. And what he said to me made me stop and think. And he was absolutely right. He said to me, look, you lost your hair a long time ago. And at the time, it was like 15 years ago, or 15 years since I had started losing my hair. He said, and you've been bald, and then you got your hair back. And it makes sense why you appreciate that. He goes, I lost my hairline 2 years ago. It's still fresh in my mind. Like it just happened. That's why I want my hairline back. And I was like, that actually makes sense. I still don't agree that you should get your old hairline back. You should have an eye on the future, but that is absolutely true. That's why these young guys don't listen to you, or they don't listen to me when we're saying you need to slow down, you need to think about this, you need to do your research. Like there was actually a guy on one of the subreddits today. I don't think maybe he was on hair transplants, but I actually did some background looking on his profile. And he'd posted on like plastic surgery subreddit and a couple of other subreddits. And 20 years old, Norwood 3. And he was saying, how many grafts do I need? And I'm thinking to myself, none. You got these modeling shots. Like he's got all these photos that he shared of himself. Handsome kid. Good looking kid. High hairline. Looks like it might actually be a naturally high hairline, like you might have triangular alopecia, which is naturally being a Norwood 3. There are people out there like that. And he said, I'm not concerned about how aggressive it is. I want it to be aggressive. I just want to know how many grafts you guys think I need. And he said in a different post on a different subreddit, I found a doctor that will work on me in my own state. Do you know what that statement means? It means he was turned down by a lot of doctors.
Yeah.
And it was because of his age. 20 years old. Prefrontal cortex hasn't fully developed. He's still a stupid kid, and I say that lovingly. Doesn't understand his decision to not care about it being too aggressive. Oh, he also said if I lose too much hair in the future, I'll just shave it, which is another classic response that these kids give. Like, they won't care when they're 50. Hello? I'm over here. Like, I've dealt with so many patients that are 50, 60. I've consulted patients that had surgery when they're 85. You never stop caring about your hair. But, yeah, sorry for the interruption. I got off on a tangent there. But, yeah, I'd like to know about you. I'd like to know your background as far as what put you in a position to understand how to comment to these people on these subreddits. What's your history?
Oh, man. So I think it was just oh, man, I hate talking about my story. But I think the point I was going to make, you mentioned that the guy was also on all these other plastic surgery like subreddits. Was he getting other surgeries as well aside from hair transplants?
I don't know if he's gotten anything else, but he's very vain. You can see, like he's doing some photos without his shirt on, so he can show his abs and I think he was talking about. He's on that other subreddit, Am I Ugly, where people are talking. You've seen that one. Like I got a pretty good sense of the kid just by seeing where he posts and a couple of the posts that he's made. He's very, I don't want to say superficial, but he's very concerned about his looks head to toe, not just his hair. Go ahead.
And I think that the reason why there's such a rise on people just desperately going to get these surgeries is because of the rise of the pressures that come with this obsession with social media.
Oh, yeah.
I think just people feeling the need to be, I guess, valued on these platforms, and it's all tied to just pictures of yourself, and your appearance is going to be tied to the pictures and how you feel about yourself. And I think this is especially true for like the younger people. I mean, me, I don't actually have social media. I just have like Reddit and I have like YouTube, and that's it.
Good for you.
I actually got rid of all mine because it's a long story, but I had a friend who was like I believe my Facebook because one of my friends, he was like married and he had all, beautiful pictures. Like, oh man, my friend's got it easy. He's got everything made. And then I find out that the marriage was actually horrible and that they got divorced and it's an ugly divorce. And I'm thinking,
that's the way it usually is. That's the way most of them are.
And it's like social media only shows the best of people's lives, and it gives this illusion that everyone is better than you almost. So I just said, you know what, forget this. I'm just going to get rid of it all.
What's funny is I see some people that I've known for many years on their Instagram or Facebook, and they've got these pretty big productions going into these group photos, and they're on trips and shit. And I've actually been tempted to unfollow them, not unfriend them, but unfollow them, because it's kind of sickening to me, because I know how much effort they're putting into these photos. I know how much, I know how important it is for this woman to look like she's all that, and that her life is all that, and that, her with her husband and her kids. And I know better because I know this person. And it's like, you're not really that happy in life. You're not fooling me. And it's kind of like, I'm kind of tired of seeing it, but it is what it is. I don't like to do that because I do like to see what's going on, whether it's fake or not, just to see, just to not lose touch with these people, not of these people, but with these people. But it's still something that I kind of wrestle with. Not so much on Instagram, because Instagram, I don't know those people on Instagram. A few people I do, of course. But Facebook, I got two Facebook accounts. I got my personal Facebook account, which is just my friends, just people I know personally. And then my public, my professional, which is where I deal with all the hair loss guys and doctors and stuff like that. So those are different. But with Instagram, it's almost all people I don't know. Just for branding, just for my hair transplant mentor branding. So that doesn't bother me. But my personal Facebook, I see some people, I know the production they put into it, and I know they're not that happy. I know it's all smoke and mirrors. And that's what it is with most people that seem, or that put an emphasis on posting on their Facebook profile on a regular basis. And it's sad. I mean, it's part of what's driven the market that I'm in, hair restoration, but also, lipo, breast augmentation, tummy tucks, all that. Yeah. Like, again, back to Reddit, you see all these subreddits. Some of them are generalized, like the plastic surgery one. Then you got the specialized ones. There's a rhinoplasty. There's breast augmentation. Like, all the specialties of plastic surgery have their own subreddits, multiple subreddits. And there's a lot of activity on these things. And it's done nothing but grow over the past 10 years. And there's a reason. Yeah. Social media. 50 years ago, no one gave a shit. People were comparing themselves to, Sports Illustrated, and Playboy, and that was it. Those are the only quote unquote negative influences that we had on our appearances. But now it's everywhere. You can't get away from it. And advertising, I'll throw that in there too. 50 years ago, there was also advertising like posters and movies and TV and stuff. But that was it. Now you can't get away from it. You can't just turn the TV off. You got to turn off your computer, your phone, everything, and it'll still seep its way through to get to you. So it's just the sad world we live in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, as to why I do all this stuff, so I used to be on Trustless a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go there first, and I actually got banned from it because I was being honest with people. So, yeah, because if you say the wrong thing and you say the truth on Trustless, they'll all come after you, and then the mods will just kick you off. So I don't go there anymore.
It's interesting, yeah. I got banned on there because I was posting links to the show where we don't sell anything. We don't push, like, there's zero product or service sales of any, like, there's no sales. It's just us talking. And they, sorry to interrupt you, but the reason why I finally got an answer why. They're saying that I mostly promote my services, which I don't. I never do. I don't have a service. And I'm not spending time helping others. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So I looked at all my postings, and it was like 60 or 70% of my postings, my comments on that subreddit were answering questions that people had. And that was it. And the rest was like, hey, we got a show, if you guys want to watch. Anyway, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think, so my story is basically that I got on treatment pretty early. I would say that I'm closer to a Norwood 2, maybe a little worse than that.
How old are you?
I like thinning in like the corner. I'm 33.
33, Norwood 2. Okay.
So, and I think the podcast, the show 2 weeks ago, there was something really like that I really focused in on and thought, yes, this sounds like me. And there was that guy who was 29 who held off his hair with treatment for 10 years, and he's still a Norwood 2, but he was so worried about like losing his hair in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's led to, like, I'm the type of guy who's like obsessed with like illnesses, cancer, and like I'm like a hypochondriac.
Okay.
So when I was losing my hair, I did not take it very well at all.
Okay.
And I went through like a midlife crisis for like basically a year before I got on treatment. And it's just this like cycle of depression where like it was awful.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like I feel like people who are losing their hair and are bothered by it, we're all part of like some sort of like support group, and we need to help each other out. So it almost
100%.
feels like I'm obligated to like help guide people because I've been there. I know what these guys are feeling. I've had, like really bad thoughts when I first discovered I was losing my hair. And there are some people who would like, say, well, you were in your 30s when you were finding out. And,
yeah.
I miss the days when I was in my 20s when I didn't even think about hair loss.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like, never even thought about it. But there are some times where I think, well, what if I discovered it like at 28 or something instead of like 31? What if I, got on it even earlier? Maybe my hairline would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
And those thinning areas that bother me every day, that I check and obsess over when I look in the mirror and just kind of fold my hair out, I wouldn't be dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would ever consider surgery, like, ever. I hope it doesn't ever happen, and I hope the treatments work for a while, or at least until there are new treatments out there. Because I also like follow Kevin Mann, who releases a video like maybe once a week about new treatments, and they're pretty interesting. And you kind of hope that something comes out, but I've been burned before, like by some of these companies that just completely fail.
I get it. I get it. Look, there's a lot of people, and I talked about this at the top of the show. There's a lot of people that do follow hair loss treatments, and they're very hopeful. And like I said before, I recommend people that are interested in future treatments, go to hairlosscure2020.com. Fantastic resource. The guy's on top of his game when it comes to, even getting direct information from the source that he's talking about when it comes to these treatments or these future treatments. I have had a hard time getting on board with that, and the reason for that is I'm only interested in what's available to me now. Like what can I do now that works? Because
I think people fall in this trap. They think that the next treatment that is not finasteride will be out, and that's kind of what I was holding on to for like that first year when I was very depressed. I was worried about the side effects of finasteride, and if I knew what I knew today, I would have gotten on it immediately. Although when I first discovered this, it was during the lockdowns.
Okay.
So I couldn't actually get treatment. I couldn't go to a dermatologist. I was in my apartment with everything shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm like freaking out.
Yeah.
And people are thinking, oh, you're not losing your hair. You're just stressed about the pandemic.
Oh my God.
It's not a big deal. And it's like, and then there's part of me thinking maybe they're right. Maybe it's not hair loss, even though my dad has, bad hair loss in his family. And, I should have known. But like the stress that comes with hair loss and like this endless battle you have with just kind of treating it, you almost like, there are days where I think maybe I should just buzz it and just do a shorter haircut, because I know that shorter haircuts would look better if you're receding a little bit. And I've always talked about with people, like, have you ever considered doing a fade haircut or something that like could complement your hairline better? Because these kids that show up and they're pulling up their hair and showing their like Norwood 2.5 hairline looking for surgery, I'm thinking, maybe you won't need actually surgery. You can just style it a certain way and you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done that. I haven't had a haircut in a while, so my hair's like grown out. I look like Frodo now. Like I have hair everywhere. But
I need a haircut too.
But like, I just feel like there aren't enough resources, and there's not like one central place to go to for people to get advice. Like when people have cancer or something, they go to WebMD, or maybe they go to like, or if they're worried about cancer, they're a reliable places to go to. But there really aren't reliable places to go to for treatment, because there's just so much crap out there.
So much crap, and the treatments that seem to be common are not standardized, like PRP. No PRP, no two PRP procedures are the same. Even if one clinic learned from another, they'll eventually add their own spin on the ingredient list or the protocols or the process. And exosomes, there's more than one source for exosomes. There's more than one way to prepare them. Like different clinics will prepare them differently, mix them with PRP, A-cell. Like there's no standard for this stuff. And that's part of the problem. There is no standard for anything when it comes to hair restoration. There's no standard for prescription medication, because when you're getting generics, like I was talking to one of the previous callers, you don't know what the hell you're getting. You don't know where it was made, usually, because no one thinks about it. No one thinks to look at the box. Who's making this? And then they're having great results, and then 6 months later, they look at the box again to make sure that it's the same source that they've been getting that has been working for them. But there is no standard for that manufacturing.
So when I have to get my prescription refilled, they always default me to generics, and I have to tell them, give me the brand. And they almost like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Just give me the brand.
Yeah, and look, God love them. Pharmacists, they do their job. They were trained. They went to school, but they're not taught about this dirty secret about generics, that they're not the same.
I think they're trying to do what's best for me. They're thinking, oh, well, he'll save a ton of money and he'll get the same thing. When it's really not.
No, of course they're trying to, they're trying to do the right thing by helping you, or by helping you save money. I don't know if, like, there may be, I actually need to research this more. I need to talk to some pharmacists I know. There may be programs that these manufacturers have for a pharmacy to push a specific product. Doctors get kickbacks for pushing specific products. I imagine, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. This is something I need to make a note of to research, that pharmacies can also get kickbacks from manufacturers. That could also be it, where the pharmacists themselves may not be aware, but the manager of the pharmacy may say, look, if we've got, whatever medication that needs to go out, let's for this week or this month or whatever, this quarter, let's push it from this source or from this manufacturer or something. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But I would be very unsurprised if that were the case. I would expect that to be the case, actually. So I will research that and maybe do an update on the show about that. I think actually, as I think about it, I think it'd be an interesting subject to discuss for people getting these medications, any medications, actually. So thank you for that idea.
Yeah, no problem. I have I just have one question, and I'll give someone else a chance to talk.
Okay.
So I am currently on Propecia. I've been almost on it I'm almost 2 years on it. Although I did start with generics first for about a few months, and then they gave me a new generic. The pills look different, and that's the reason why I switched to brand, because I was like, I don't know what they may have given me a completely different drug and screwed up.
Yeah.
So that's when that's the reason why I got on brand. But I'm always worried about, that second shoe dropping, that I start losing ground on the treatment, because my dad's side of the family, their hair loss takes 10 to 15 years to finish. So it's kind of aggressive. And I remember seeing a video by these two guys on the hair loss show where they talked about the efficacy of finasteride, and they said 86% within the first year stabilize the hair, then it falls to 83, and then it falls to 60 after 5 years. I think it's 65%, and for stabilization. And I've been kind of debating, well, could I use dutasteride as an adjunct treatment? And I've been kind of talking with people in the chat on these shows with some people who use dutasteride, and I thought, well, what if I just stick with Propecia as every day, but then throw in maybe 3 pills of generic dutasteride to see what happens? Because I understand that dutasteride will block even more of the dihydrotestosterone production, and if I respond okay to it, then I'll at least have a head start against any
I'm not a fan of just
that doesn't.
I'm not a fan of just trying stuff, and I understand what you're saying. But you specifically seem to me to be the kind of person that if there is any sort of negative change, you would freak the F out.
Yeah.
Don't risk it. Brother, I have learned a long time ago how to identify certain individuals that have a certain not personality trait, but certain emotional traits when they talk to me, where experimentation is a bad idea, because you already talked about going into a spin of depression and anxiety early on in your hair loss experience. Do not, I can't stress this enough, my friend, do not experiment. You don't want to be a guinea pig for yourself, because if you do have a negative experience, if this experiment goes south, it could trigger a spiral of desperation where you try something else to fix what just got screwed up, and that again can help to push that spiral even further. And then it's always robbing Peter to pay Paul. To fix the problem that you're that you created by trying to fix something that didn't need to be fixed in the first place. You're in a good place right now.
Well, you see, that's the thing. I'm not sure, because I'm the type of person who like looks at my hairline every day and I check to see if I'm losing ground.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last like 4 months, I feel like I'm slowly losing ground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know it for sure. Because I don't like take photos because I'm just so, I don't want to look at these photos. It's like a insecurity. I just don't want to look at photos of myself and my hair loss. I just want to look at it now and look at it in the same setting, same lighting, and see if I see a difference. And I think a part of me doesn't want to believe it, that it was as bad as I like seen it before,
Mm-hmm.
but there are parts of me that are having doubts that I might be like losing a little bit of ground, at least in the hairline. I feel like the crown area, I think that's been fine.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing fine there, but I feel like my biggest concern is I realize I'm losing ground in spite of treatment and me completely crashing. Because like when I was not taking treatment, I had trouble getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Like I had really bad depression, and it was affecting like my job. Like, you know, I was working from home, thankfully, but I don't know how bad it would have been if I had to actually show up to work. But yeah, I was like logging in late. And, you know, people were seeing that like things were like really wrong with me. Family members were seeing things were wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on the treatment for that first year, and I felt like I was seeing improvement that first year,
mm-hmm.
and people were telling me that things were improving.
Okay.
So it's not just me looking at, like, people were saying that my hair looked fuller. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, at least for the crown and like the mid-scalp area.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's improved. It's just that the hairline, I don't think, has improved at all. If anything, it got maybe a little bit worse. And it's just this awful obsession I have. And it's like this mentality of like it taking over your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that first year when I was on treatment, I felt like I had my life back. And then this second year on treatment, I'm having those doubts creep in and I'm losing my life again. And that's why I feel like that I'm tempted to go on this campaign of trying all these treatments and throwing the kitchen sink at it to get me back to that first year where I felt like I had my life back.
I get it.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. So that's why I was like wondering, like, what your thoughts were for me just at least trying dutasteride maybe 3 times a week to see if I can get like some sort of equilibrium where. Yeah. Well, and I've also considered like Rogaine too, because I haven't even tried that yet.
Well, here's the thing. Well, first off, about what Dr. Vikram and I forgot what his partner's name is on the hair loss show, what they're talking about. I got some countering information. There was a study, and forgive me, I don't have the specifics off the top of my head, but there's a study, I think, out of Japan. It was a long-term study with a lot of participants, not one of these typical studies you read about where there's like 13 people. It was like a few thousand, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I know what you're talking about, but a lot of the I've discussed this with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
People believe that Asians have like a better reaction to these treatments because they don't, like, Caucasians have like the worst treat.
No,
that's not true at all.
No. I've seen far too many Asian heads in my career just because of where I live. I live in Vancouver. My own suburb that I live in, it's 250,000 people and it's 80% Chinese. I know a lot of Asian people, and treatments don't work better on Asians. Like finasteride doesn't work better on Asians than non-Asians. Full stop.
Okay.
Full stop. I'll put that to rest right now. But the study we're talking about, that we're both referencing, showed not only a strong percentage of the participants stabilize their loss, there's actually a slow but steady increase in hair counts over several years, like 10 years. hair counts were still showing to be, and forgive me if I got the exact number wrong, but a significant number of people were showing, albeit slightly, there were still increased hair counts after many years on finasteride. My understanding has always been the efficacy level of finasteride has continued. On average, it goes up for about 24 months before it plateaus. There's this urban myth that it loses its efficacy after 5 years. That's complete and utter horseshit. There's nothing to back that up. It's just a couple people said it online, and it kind of picked up and gained a life of its own in the online world. There's no doctor out there that believes that. None.
Well, I think it wasn't so much that it doesn't work anymore. You're still slowing down the hair loss. It's just that you're not stabilizing.
Well, you're stabilizing. It's just not a full stabilization. It's not a full stop, and that's very possible because you're not eliminating all of the DHT. But in many cases, you have to understand you don't have to eliminate all DHT to stop hair loss. It's different for different people. Some people you do need to eliminate more DHT than others, but there's not a specific threshold that's universal. But a lot of people, it will look like they stopped their hair loss, but in reality, it slowed it to such a crawl that it takes 5 years of continued but slow loss for the aesthetic to actually catch up to the point where you notice it visually, to where it creates a cosmetic deficit. It's a very slow process. It's just like, the saying, which I feel is a myth, that doctors say, well, you can't see your hair loss until you've lost 50% of your hair. I don't agree with that. I think it's highly variable depending on a lot of variables. It's variable based on variables. That sounded stupid. It's highly variable based on the individual. But what I feel happens is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about the 50% rule. If that were true, and it is true in some cases, if that were true, it takes a long time to get to that 50% point. You don't notice it because it's slow, it's gradual, and it takes time for the effect to become bad enough to where you actually notice it. That's the whole point of that. It is variable based on the individual, like I said, but the point is, if you are taking it for the long term and it's not stop your loss 100%, you will notice over the course of several years eventually that it has that you have lost more hair. It just takes you that long to notice it. And then when people notice it, they're like, oh, well, my Propecia stopped working. No, it didn't. It just wasn't working 100%. And it took this long for you to see it. That's the whole point of that useless rant I just went on. But you understand.
I mean, the reason why I would rather have the full stop is because me personally, I prefer to just not ever get to a point where I'm like tempted to even consider surgery, and maybe get to an age like where I'm 50 where I would think, okay, well, I'm 50. It's not a big deal for me to have this amount of recession, or even just have a shorter haircut and just move on with my life. Because I think the older you get, the more you are willing to accept hair loss in your life, because I think it just kind of fits like your age more. It's more age appropriate.
Depending on the individual, like, again, it's.
I mean, for me, it would be like, because the first thing I did was I did shave my head.
Yeah. Okay.
During the pandemic, during the lockdown, that was the first thing I did, because one of my friends said, "Just shave it, see what it looks like. Yeah. It's not like anyone's going to see you. You're in lockdown." And I was like,
"That's great advice."
And I took a look and I thought, all right, it's not as bad as I expected it, but I'm gonna, hold on to my hair, because it did make me feel older. Mm-hmm. And I think if I remember, like, my friends like, oh, grow out a beard and shave your head. And mm-hmm. I thought, well, I look like I'm in my 40s or 50s. So maybe I can accept something like this no offense.
No,
sorry.
No worries.
But I could accept this if I hit my 40s and 50s, and I just want to get through my 30s. And that's actually another thing I wanted to share, that when I was getting consultation with Dr. Highness, who used to work with DiStefano, he said that he hears that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone that goes to him says, I just want to get through 10 years.
Yeah, it's common.
Just get me through 10 years. As a matter of fact, he's the guy that told me that I didn't need surgery and I should get on Propecia, and that I was lucky that I was tackling this early and that I might hold on to my hair for 10 to 20 years if, you know, like a lot of patients he's seen.
Yeah.
So I am grateful that, you know, I had the right resources and I went the right path, and I didn't. And I think I also owe Kevin Mann the thanks for encouraging me to get on finasteride. I think that's probably like the biggest thing that he's done on YouTube is just convince people that the odds of you getting these side effects are very slim.
Well, I know the answer to this, but I was going to say, didn't he catch a lot of heat for that to the point where he closed his channel down for a while? Did I get that right?
So he got in a lot. Well, he's been critical of a lot of things, and there are some things I don't fully agree with him on. Sometimes he'll just insult people who are bald, and I know he said it before that it's sort of like a caricature type of thing, like he's just making a character, and he doesn't really mean what he's saying, but that does make a lot of people mad at him.
That's kind of, yeah, I can see that.
I think he's against that that Propecia Help Forum, the post-finasteride syndrome. He's like, he thinks it's all BS or whatever. And, you know, a lot of people get mad at him for that. And I think some people went after his personal history and like leaked it. And then he shut down the channel for that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the full details of it though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, details aren't really necessary, but there was some sort of controversy. He came back and, you know, if he's helping people, with these basics, then, I think it's fantastic, and he obviously helped you. So kudos to him for that. I've watched him a couple times before in the past, and yeah, he's definitely got a unique style. But look, you can't have enough good information out there, and if he's helping people with that, then that's fantastic. So I'm glad he was able to help you on your journey, because look, it sucks, man. I know, and I've talked to so many guys that have a very similar situation to you. And my advice to you is just to stay the course. I think that maybe what you're noticing could be temporary. There's always a chance that you're just going through a period where the synchronization of your telogen is in higher sync than other times.
That is something I've considered.
Yeah. So,
and that's why I haven't jumped on the dutasteride yet.
Give it a few more months. And, give it a few more months and call back. Call back on the Bald Truth or here on the Main Event, and give me an update. Give us an update. And, we'll give you our thoughts. Obviously, do what you do and what you feel best is for you. But I wouldn't panic at this point. Just keep tabs on it and see what happens.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling. I appreciate the support.
All right.
Bye. All right. Bye-bye. That was a good call. All right. So toll free 833-563-4247. We just had a call right before we hung up, and I know who it was. You're free to call back. Line is open. That's 833-563-4247 right here on the Main Event, taking place in the time slot for the Bald Truth, because Spencer Coburn decided that he needed to leave town, but he had a good reason. So we still love him. He should be back for next week, and so will the show. Same time, same bat channel, same bat time. Is that the way it used to be? Yeah, the old Batman show. I think Morty was trying to give us a call. Morty, you can call in now. 1-833-563-4247. Saw you calling through. No? Okay, well, someone call. Because I've been on for, let's see, when did I finally start? I think I started about 3:30. I'll go to at least 5:30 to get the full 2 hours in. And I do have some things I got to do afterwards, but we'll see. As long as we get questions and calls, I will stick around, at least for the foreseeable future. Milk Drinker can call from UK. I don't know, can you? I don't know if this number, I'm sure you can on Skype. If you have Skype, you can call the number. It should be the same number, 833-563-4247. I don't know of any other way for you to call. So, but if you want to, it'd be great to hear from you. But yeah, phone line is open. I will cut this short. It's not really short because it's almost 2 hours. I will shut down if I don't get any more calls. Nothing really more for me to talk about. I got everything off my chest. There's some other things going on in the hair loss space on different platforms, some controversy and some people getting their feelings hurt. If you want to talk about that, we can talk about that as well. Got surgical questions. That's my wheelhouse. Love talking about surgery. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Great show, Joe. I'm just glad I got the phones working. That was my biggest thing. The second thing was the construction, like of all days. I worked all week to get my studio upgraded for the sound, which was fun. It was one hell of a project, but I did it. And yeah, Morty, I see you chatting. Let's see. Milk Drinker, did you see the video of the guy with a super low hairline? Normally that could be anyone, but yeah, I saw it. And as I understand, that's a video. It's a few years old, put out by the clinic of all people, not the patient. And I almost did a reaction video on it, but I saw a couple other people did, and I thought, why bother? But it was one of the most egregious. How can I put this? It was just horrible. I feel bad for the kid. He may have been happy with it, but so much hair was used, and people got to be looking at him day to day, and just they can't help but stare at his hairline because it just looks so bizarre. And the main problem with that, not just the height, but was also the sides weren't brought forward. It was very out of balance, very out of whack. So we've got a call here. All right, you're live on the main event with Joe Tillman. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
It's Morty from Brooklyn. There he is. How you doing, Morty? My God.
I can't. Yeah, it's been a little while, guys. I apologize. I had a couple things go on, and I kind of left you guys hanging at the last call because I had a bit of a scare.
You did.
The big speech.
You left us hanging about your pee-pee. How are things? Hello? And we lost him. The line is still active. What happened, man? Sounds like he was in a car, so he might have lost the signal. Okay, I'm going to hang up and you call back if you can hear me. Not sure what happened. But yeah, it happens. Phone calls get dropped. The line is still open. Morty, call back. 833-563-4247. We want to get an update on your tests that you had, your the scare that you had. You've been on my mind. Actually meant to message you more recently than today. So I'm just looking at the chat. Neil, you love the reaction videos. Thank you. I might do some more. There's so much going on. Like sometimes, I'll be honest with you guys, sometimes I think about, something to do a video about, and then I stop and I ask myself, why bother? I don't know. Sometimes I just don't like to, because there's so much work that goes into these videos. I don't like to half-ass it. I don't like to just flip on the camera and start talking. Maybe I should. You guys tell me. Maybe I should do that, because even those reaction videos aren't so simple. Like I got to do prep work. I actually have to watch the video a few times to usually to get a feel for what's going on, to make sure I understand it. I think the last one I didn't finish it off camera. I finished it on camera, so it was a genuine reaction. I hadn't watched the whole thing. Or one of them. Maybe I will do some more of those, but I'll do them live. But what do you think? You think doing them live is preferable, or doing pre-recorded edited, polished the way I do my my other videos. Those are the ones that take a lot longer. The live videos obviously don't take very much time at all. All right, so I think Morty's phone call or Morty's phone, I'm going to bet the battery died. I think that's what happened. So I'll look at the chat. Anything else going? I won't do a reaction on Brett Bolton. I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe I will. I haven't looked at his stuff in a while. Maybe I will. Studio looks good. Thank you, Joade. Thank you. Appreciate that. The one about the guy who lost his hair after dropping finasteride was a really good one. Yeah, that was a heartbreaker, man. That really did bust me up. That was, and he seems like a really good guy too. Like it shouldn't happen to anyone, but it's the good guys that just kind of gets you. Robert, what happened to Morty? I don't know. I bet his battery died on his phone. So we got to wait till next week to find out how Morty's doing. He sounds fine. So I imagine it was a scare unnecessarily. But we get it. We understand. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for everyone that stuck around and were patient with me. I was going to be on time, but then the construction upstairs, like of all days, of all times, like it was just, it got me so, I was so upset because I was really looking forward to joining you guys. I spent 2 hours working on the phone system to make sure it was working properly, and it did. So really, really glad to see that. It's a huge weight off my shoulders, actually, because that's why I haven't started the main event earlier, because I knew I didn't want to tackle this phone issue. But just today, Spencer was like, I'm not going to be back in time. You should do a solo show. So it's like, all right. I did. And I think it worked out. What do you guys think? If you liked it, hit that like button. Show me. Let's see what else is going on. So yeah, and also don't forget, if you're not a subscriber and you want to learn about what your options are for hair loss, there he is. Okay, he's pulling me back in. All right, here we go. Let's see Morty. Is this Morty? Morty. I don't hear him. Let's see. What's going on? Yeah, Morty, I don't know what's going on. That's okay. We'll try again next week, okay? All right, anyway. Yeah, so what was I saying? I forgot. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for joining me here on the main event with Joe Tillman. If you want to check out... this is a question I get a lot. And it's kind of surprising to me. I get a lot of people asking me about different doctors who I recommend. And it tells me that visitors to this channel aren't aware of my website, hairtransplantmentor.com. I work with, I think, 15 different doctors that have exceptional skill, good ethics, are safe choices to consider. I'm not telling anyone to go to any doctor I work with. I put in the legwork. I hopped on planes. I traveled to some of these clinics. I inspected them myself using my own experience working in high-level clinics, understanding, proper cleansing protocols, how to do surgery properly, how to treat patients when you're in the OR. I watch this stuff, and these clinics that I have on my website, I'm not saying they're the best in the world. I'm saying they have a fantastic approach. I feel like they're excellent at what they do, and I think that they're definitely worth considering. And I don't say that just from looking at pretty pictures on the internet. Okay, Morty, we're going to try this one more time. Morty, you there?
Hello. Yes, I made it in. Sorry about that.
What the hell's going on?
Big little bit of technical difficulties there. I apologize.
It's a phone. What the hell? It's like, what do you mean technical difficulties? You press call and it either works or it doesn't. What the hell's going on? Was your battery dead?
No, actually, it was. So, I was listening to you on the train, and that last caller was going pretty long, and so I just got on the train, figuring, okay, I'll probably just get home before this guy gets off the phone. Then he gets off, and I was like, oh, I gotta jump on. So I jumped on, and then we went into a tunnel, and the freaking line got cut. I was like, great. So then I got out of the station, and I tried to call you again, and then I was on hold, and then my phone decided to reboot itself for some godforsaken reason. So I called the third time.
Well, there you go.
And now I'm in.
Okay. Well, third time's a charm, my friend. All right. So before luck hits us again, give us an update. You give everyone that's not familiar with your last call a short backstory.
My drama, because there's always freaking drama with me.
Yeah, a short backstory, and then give us the update.
Okay, so basically, to start, I went for my annual physical. Doc does my blood work. Doc does my urinalysis.
Yeah.
Blood work shows that I'm anemic for the first time in my life.
Right.
Urinalysis shows that I've got occult blood in the urine.
Yes.
And that really upset me.
Yes.
Doctor, I went ahead and I did the thing, which, by the way, is probably not the smartest thing in the world to do, is to hit Dr. Google. And you hit Dr. Google, and you can scare the living daylights out of yourself.
Absolutely.
Because occult blood could possibly mean things like bladder cancer, prostate cancer, or whatchamacallit, bladder cancer, prostate cancer. What's the third thing? Oh, kidney cancer.
Kidney cancer,
right?
yeah.
So, So I did a second urinalysis. Blood was still present. Went to see a urologist. Urologist said we're ordering up a cytology, which is a fancy urine test where they look for cancer cells.
Mm-hmm.
And that came back negative, and the third urinalysis came back negative. So whatever was going on, it disappeared. And the urinalysis came out negative, which is obviously a good thing. So that's good, but it's not great. Great would be if the cytology was 100% indicative or 90% indicative. It's only about 78% indicative, but it's certainly better than, nothing.
Yeah.
So, that's a good piece of news. I'll take it. I've got to go see him on Thursday. Probably going to do best 3 out of 5 because, we had two positives and 1 negative, so we're probably going to have to do a few more of these to see if it comes back or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's about as good a piece of news as I can get. I'm really hoping to avoid the cytoscopy, which, as you can imagine, is not a pleasant thing.
Yeah. we want to avoid invasive exploratory options at this point. Yeah. You don't... yeah.
You don't want people to put cameras in your pee hole. It's not a fun thing.
No.
I don't care how small the camera is.
I don't care how impressive the technology is. I want to know nothing about it. That's one piece of technology I'm not interested in. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with that. So, so far so good, and that's probably the best way to put it.
I thought of you actually. Now that you say it, I thought of you the other day because I got an engine in my storage. I'm going to swap into my my car, and I took off one of the coils and slipped in a snake camera, and made me think of you. So.
Oh, lovely.
Checking the cylinder walls, and I thought, I wonder how Morty's doing.
Think of Morty. Yes, I know. It's just, it's funny, dude. We're all getting older, and so all this crazy stuff is coming up. I had a friend of mine. I had to take a friend of mine to because they had hurt themselves on the job, and they have like a slap tear on the labrum, and they're all upset. I'm going, I don't understand how this happened. Blah 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 blah. I said, look, I had a Bankhart's lesion on my shoulder. You get the surgery, it's not a big deal. It's like, I don't understand why I have to do all the surgery. I was never having these types of problems before. I said, well, yeah, you're 52. What do you want?
Yeah, I didn't have these problems when I was in high school. Duh.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get it.
Not in high school anymore. That's what happens.
I get it.
So, it is what it is. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, the hair's coming up. The hair's starting to pop, which is really nice.
Good.
That little spot in the top of my on the back of my mid scalp and the top of my crown, it's starting to darken, which is so nice.
Yeah.
Very excited about that. Interestingly, Dr. Cole, he looked at me and said, he still wants to tweak, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to tweak anymore.
See, exactly. That's a problem with being around a hair restoration specialist all the time. They keep looking at their own work. and they want to tweak that shit. It's like, no, leave me alone. You've cut me enough. I was like, I used to, like Dr. Wong would walk by and I could see that eye just looking at me. It's like, stop it. Stop. I'm not doing it. No. It's like, I know that look, man.
Yeah, exactly. Get in the chair, Joe.
It's happened too many times. Speaking of Dr. Cole, how is the man? I've not spoken to him in a while. How's he doing?
He's good. You know, he's actually trying to spend more time in New York. He's doing some promotions to get more work in New York. He's really promoting the hell out of the TED, and he's gotten some good early results apparently.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I actually trained on it. So, and
so I knew it.
You look at it.
I knew it. I knew you'd be on the payroll eventually. I knew it.
You know, you look at it, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, this is going to grow hair? Are you kidding? You know, that apparently it may have some effect. It's one of those things where the effect is small. It's not something that you're going to be able to notice easily.
Yeah.
You know, you can get because that's the whole thing. I mean, if you can see scalp, you've lost 50% of your hair. If you do a treatment and you get back, because he said that he had one result which apparently doubled his hair check, which, you know, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, it's not something that's going to be that cosmetically significant.
Yeah, because it's a lot if you've got 5 hairs to begin with. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like it's not going to cause a huge cosmetic improvement if you already have a lot of hair. But I get it. I get it, and it's nice to hear that he's seeing success with this with the TED treatment. I find it fascinating. I want to spend more time researching it because it is a unique approach. But time, you know.
Yeah.
But
I hear you.
It is what it is.
The thing about it is, I think it's kind of like, if I had to compare it to anything, it's kind of like microneedling without the needle. That's the way that's the thing to me. It relates the most because you're disrupting the top of the skin, but you're not doing it in such a brutal way.
Yeah, it's not brutal, but it's also a delivery system at the same time. So it goes way beyond simple needling. But that's good.
Exactly.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear he's spending more time in New York.
Yeah, so
staying busy.
He's working on his book. I think he's got a chapter in a book or something like that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Other than that, he seems to be doing pretty good.
That's good. I need to talk to him soon.
It's funny. I've talked to a number of patients and potential patients, and every time I do, I always mention the bald truth.
Thank you.
Thank you for the support. I had a young guy just yesterday call, and 18 years old, looking for a transplant, and I'm like, okay, now.
Yeah.
I told him to call in, but obviously there wasn't a show, so he may not have.
Yeah.
And he was on HIMS. He's been on HIMS for the last 6 months. He says, it's funny, people have these different perceptions of what they look like versus what they actually look like.
Oh, yeah.
He said he's been losing hair since he was 16. He showed me pictures, and I really didn't see much in the way of loss. I saw a little bit of a maturing going on. His forehead head was widened a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it stretched back maybe 2 or 3 millimeters, according to him, which was, of course, 2-3 millimeters. Oh my God, that's horrible. It's like, well, not really. But again, I tried my best to take his concerns seriously. And he said that, he'd been on the HIMS for 6 months, and he said he was still losing ground. So, I was calling to the bald truth. I know that Dr. Cole has a topical that he likes to prescribe, but, I wanted him to call in and talk to you guys because he was convinced, I want to get this under control, and then I want to have a transplant in a year. And I'm like, dude, your hair does not need a transplant, and you're way too young.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk down to him, but, he needs to put the brakes on. Anybody who's under the age of 25, really, truly, there's so much more that you can do to keep your hair rather than going under the knife.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many people who just, they just want to go under the knife. The other thing that was funny about this whole cancer scare, I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, was my urologist is actually the guy who prescribed finasteride to me for the first time. He was a urologist. I went to him, And I hadn't seen the guy in about 5 years, which is about as long as been calling in. It's been 5 years. Isn't that funny, Joe?
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
And I said I had a transplant. He said, "Oh yeah, my cousin did that." I said, "Yeah, really?" He said he went to Turkey. I said, "Really? Which clinic did he go to?" No. He said he flew into Istanbul and there was a clinic inside the airport. I was like, "What?"
That's a new one. Just when you think you can't be surprised, that's a new one. That's a new one.
A clinic inside the airport. You don't even need to stay over. You just get a layover. You know.
My God. Yeah, I got a hair transplant during my layover to Paris.
Yeah, exactly.
See now, okay. If anyone out there has seen this, please send me a link. For the love of God, send me a link about this place.
Yeah, it's a secondhand information. I don't know how accurate
Gatakirk,
it is.
What was it called? Gatakirk Airport, or I forgot. There's two airports in Istanbul. One's Gatakirk, and the other, I forgot the name. Yeah, I would love to know. I would love to know if this is true. That would be that is worth a video. The airport hair transplant. Anyway, all right, Morty. I'm going to have to wrap this up. I've been online for 2 hours, and it was a hellacious beginning. But look, I'm very, very glad to hear about your update. It is fantastic news. My thoughts were with you. Like I was thinking about you, and I'm glad it worked out. Keep us updated. Call us back next week because you got your thing on Thursday. I'd love to learn more. And
for sure.
Appreciate the support and the call, my friend. You have yourself a good night.
Absolutely.
Enjoy your weekend, okay?
You too. And everybody, just before I leave, everybody who's listening, make sure you go see your doctor at least once a year. Get your blood work done. Get your urine done. The older you get, it's really important. You never know what they're going to find. And it's better you find it early if you find anything.
It's a great way to wrap up the show.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
All right. Thanks, Morty. Bye-bye. Well, that was depressing. A public service announcement to check your urine. Anyway, no, I can understand why, and I appreciate that, and I agree. You do need to see a doctor once a year. Yes, Andrew, the show is still on. I was wrapping up, and then Morty kept pushing through to call because he was losing the signal. He's on the train, but we're done. Thank you, everyone, again, and I'm out of here. So be sure to tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel, for Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth with me, Joe Tillman. And, of course, like this video if you thought it was fun watching me fumble around for the first half hour, trying to get the sound right and dealing with everything I was dealing with. And, of course, if you're not subscribed, subscribe and ring the bell for all notifications so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching.